The crystal spires of Keth Prime burned against the purple sky. Ambassador Velthara pressed her six-fingered hand against the observation deck window and watched her world die. The Vraktar ships hung in orbit like black daggers, their weapons turning her people's beautiful cities into molten glass. "How many more cities?" she asked without turning around. High Council Leader Mordane's voice cracked as he answered. 17 fell today. The northern continent is gone. They're not taking prisoners, Velthara. They're not even taking slaves. They just destroy everything. Velthara closed her large, dark eyes. The Kethmori had always been a peaceful people. Their greatest achievement was art, not war. Their ships carried musicians and poets, not soldiers. When the Vraktar horde first appeared at the edge of their system, they had tried to negotiate. They offered trade, knowledge, even tribute. The Vraktar response was to laugh and open fire. "What about the others?" she asked. "The Alteran Federation? The Zenthek Empire?" Mordane's scaled hands shook as he held the communication pad. "The Alterans say they cannot risk war with the Vraktar. The Zentheks claim they are busy with internal matters. The Quarians—" He paused. "The Quarians say it would be logistically impossible to help us." Velthara turned from the window. Her people were dying, and the galaxy's great civilizations were too afraid or too busy to care. "What about the smaller worlds, anyone?" "The same answers, all of them. Fear or indifference." Mordane set down the pad with trembling hands. "We are alone." Outside, another flash lit the sky as orbital bombardment turned the art district into slag. Velthara had grown up in those galleries. Her daughter had played in those gardens. Now they were nothing but cooling metal and ash. "There is one option," Mordane said quietly. "What option? We've contacted everyone in the known galaxy." "Not everyone." The old counselor pulled up a star chart. "There are worlds we haven't contacted. Worlds marked as too dangerous or primitive." Velthara studied the map. Most of the unexplored regions were marked in red: danger zones, stellar anomalies, or worlds with hostile environments. But one caught her attention. A small blue-green planet in the outer rim marked with warnings she had never seen before. "What is this world?" she asked, pointing at it. Mordane enlarged the display. The warnings made her skin crawl. Hazard class extreme. Avoid at all costs. Hostile environment. Multiple extinction events. Dangerous native life forms. Planetary warfare detected. They're fighting wars on their own planet? According to the automated surveys, they never stop fighting. The species there battles everything. Their environment, their weather, each other. Most civilizations classify it as a death world. Velthara stared at the blue dot on the screen. A world of endless war and death. What kind of creatures could survive such a place? What kind of beings would it create? "You want to ask savages for help?" "I want to ask survivors for help." Mordane's voice was steady now. "Look at the data. This species has endured ice ages, asteroid impacts, volcanic winters, and global floods. They've survived plague, famine, and wars that make our current situation look like a minor dispute. If anyone in the galaxy knows how to fight when everything seems hopeless, it would be them." Another explosion shook the building. Through the window, Velthara could see Vraktar ground forces moving through the lower city. The enemy soldiers were twice the size of any Kethmori, with armored skin and weapons that could punch through solid stone. Her people ran from them like frightened children. "What are they called, these Deathworld dwellers?" Mordane checked the file. "According to the old exploration records, they call themselves humans." The building shook again, harder this time. Emergency lights bathed the council chamber in red. In the distance, Velthara could hear the sound of her people screaming. "Do it," she said. "Velthara, we don't know anything about them. They might be as bad as the Vraktar. They might demand tribute we cannot afford. They might not even have space travel. Look around, Mordane. What do we have to lose?" The old counselor was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the screaming grew louder. Finally, he nodded and activated the emergency broadcast system. "This is Ambassador Velthara of the Kethmori Republic," she said into the transmitter. Her voice would carry across the galaxy, reaching every world with the technology to receive it. "We are under attack. Our people are dying. We have tried diplomacy. We have offered everything we possess, and still they come. The great powers of the galaxy have abandoned us to our fate." She paused, watching another section of the city burn. "To anyone who receives this message, to any species brave enough or desperate enough to answer, we offer everything we have. All our knowledge, all our resources, all our gratitude. We ask not for conquest or glory, but for survival. Help us and we will be forever in your debt. Mordain cut the transmission and looked at her sadly. Now we wait. How long? If anyone is coming, they would need to receive the signal, decode our language, make a decision, and travel here. Days at minimum, more likely weeks. Velthara nodded and walked back to the window. She could see Vraktar ships landing in the city center. They would have hours, not days. The transmission was pointless. A final scream into the void before extinction. The communication console beeped. Both Kethmori froze. It was impossible. The signal had just been sent. No one could have received and responded so quickly. Mordain's hands shook as he activated the receiver. The voice that came through was unlike anything they had ever heard. It was flat, emotionless, speaking in their language, but with an accent that suggested the speaker had learned it very recently. Coordinates received. En route, that was all. No questions about payment. No demands for tribute. No negotiation or diplomacy. Just acknowledgement and action. Where did that come from? Velthara whispered. Mordain checked the signal trace. His large eyes went wide. The Deathworld. The humans. But that's impossible. The signal only just reached them. Even if they responded immediately, how could they decode our language so fast? How could they? I don't know. Mordain stared at the console. But they're coming. Outside, the Vraktar continued their methodical destruction of everything the Kethmori had built. But for the first time in days, Ambassador Velthara felt something other than despair. She felt hope. Strange, terrifying hope in the form of unknown warriors from a world where nothing was supposed to survive. In the depths of space, something was moving toward them. Something from a place where war was not an occasional horror but a way of life. The Deathworld had answered their call. General Han Wujin stood in the command center deep beneath the Rockies, staring at the alien transmission with his one good eye. The other eye had been lost during the Martian rebellion, along with his left arm up to the elbow. The mechanical replacement was more efficient than flesh, but it reminded him daily that humans paid a price for everything they achieved. "Play it again," he ordered. The desperate voice of the alien ambassador filled the room once more. Around the table, Earth's military leadership listened with the expression of people who had heard similar pleas before. Admiral Park Dasam tapped her fingers against the metal table, a nervous habit from her days commanding patrol ships in the asteroid belt. Colonel Kim Taeho's cybernetic eye whirred softly as it recorded every detail for analysis. "Well?" Han asked when the message finished. "It's legitimate," Colonel Kim said. His artificial eye could detect things human eyes couldn't. "The distress is real. Population centers are being systematically destroyed. Estimated civilian casualties in the millions." Admiral Park pulled up a holographic display of the target system. "It's deep in uncharted space. No supply lines, no backup, no extraction plan if things go wrong. We'd be completely on our own." "How many enemy ships?" Han asked. "Intelligence estimates between 800 and 1,200 Vraktar vessels. Their individual ships are larger than ours with superior firepower." General Han nodded slowly. Around him, his officers waited for his decision. These weren't politicians or peacekeepers. They were survivors of humanity's endless conflicts. The water wars that had killed 3 billion. The Siberian campaign where soldiers fought in temperatures that could freeze blood in their veins. The Australian wasteland conflicts where the enemy was the planet itself as much as other humans. "Thoughts?" Han asked. Colonel Kim spoke first. "Standard genocidal raiders. They hit civilian targets first to break morale, then move in for the cleanup. Effective against species that haven't seen real warfare. Which explains why the galaxy's other powers won't help," Admiral Park added. "They're used to civilized warfare. Polite battles with rules and surrender options. This isn't that kind of fight." Han studied the tactical display. 1,200 enemy ships versus whatever Earth could scramble on short notice. Any sane military commander would call it impossible. Han had been in the military for 30 years and sanity had never been a requirement. "Commander Song, what can we deploy?" Commander Song Youngie was the youngest person at the table, but her record spoke for itself. She had fought in the polar campaigns where the ice itself was a weapon, and in the deep ocean wars where humans learned to battle in crushing darkness. Her voice was calm as she read from her tablet. "Third Fleet is currently on exercises near Titan. 200 combat vessels, fully equipped. The Sol is flagship. 7th Marine Division is aboard, along with the usual support elements. 200 ships against 1,200, Admiral Park mused. I've seen worse odds. When? Colonel Kim asked. Europa. We had 50 ships against 300 rebel platforms. She smiled grimly. Of course, we knew the terrain there. General Han considered the numbers. By any reasonable calculation, they were being asked to commit suicide. But reasonable calculations had never stopped humans before. When the Ice Age came, they hadn't given up. They had learned to make fire. When the supervolcanoes erupted, they hadn't fled. They had dug deeper. When the floods came, they had built boats. When other humans made war, they had made better war. There's something else, Colonel Kim said quietly. We intercepted communications from the other galactic powers. They're not just refusing to help. They're actively discouraging anyone from getting involved. Why? Unknown. But the patterns suggest they're afraid of something. Not just the Vraktar, something else. Han leaned back in his chair. His mechanical arm clicked softly as internal servos adjusted. They're afraid of us. The room fell silent. It made sense in a way. Humanity had been monitoring galactic communications for decades, learning languages and studying cultures from the shadows. They knew about the great civilizations, the trading empires, the peaceful federations. But none of those civilizations knew about Earth until now. They think we're savages, Admiral Park said. They're right, Han replied. We are savages. Useful savages. He stood and walked to the display showing the alien star system. Somewhere out there, a peaceful species was dying because the galaxy's civilized powers were too afraid or too comfortable to help. It was a familiar story. Throughout human history, someone had always been willing to look the other way while innocents suffered. Orders, sir? Commander Song asked. Han turned to face his officers. These people had survived everything Earth could throw at them. They had fought in deserts where the sand could strip flesh from bone, in jungles where every plant was poisonous, in cities where the buildings themselves had been turned into weapons. They were products of a world that had never known peace. Signal Third Fleet. Emergency deployment. Admiral Park, you have overall command. Colonel Kim, take your special operations teams. Commander Song, prepare for extended operations with no resupply. Rules of engagement? Admiral Park asked. Han's smile was not pleasant. We're responding to a distress call. Anyone who interferes with rescue operations is a hostile target, including the Vraktar, especially the Vraktar. The officers began filing out to prepare their units. Colonel Kim paused at the door. Sir, what about the political situation? This will be humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization. General Han looked at the display one more time. Somewhere in that distant system, people were dying while their neighbors watched and did nothing. It was the oldest story in the universe, and humans had always been on the wrong side of it. The weak side. The side that got abandoned when help was needed most. Let them know what kind of neighbors they've had all along, he said. Within 6 hours, Third Fleet was moving. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the UES Seoul, watching Earth shrink behind them. Around her, 200 of humanity's finest warships accelerated toward interstellar space. They carried soldiers who had learned to fight in Earth's hurricanes, pilots who had trained in Venus's acid storms, engineers who could rebuild cities while under fire. ETA to target system? She asked. 18 hours at maximum hyperspace velocity, her navigation officer replied. Admiral Park nodded. 18 hours to cross half the galaxy. By the time they arrived, the aliens who had called for help might already be extinct. But that wouldn't stop the fleet. Humans had a habit of finishing what they started, even when they started too late. Send a message to the alien survivors, she ordered. Tell them help is coming. What if they're all dead by the time we arrive? Admiral Park's expression hardened. Then we make sure the people who killed them understand why that was a mistake. The fleet entered hyperspace, carrying with it the concentrated fury of a species that had never known a day without conflict. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation, scarred by wars, marked by disasters, home to the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Humans were coming, and they were bringing 4 billion years of survival experience with them. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kethmori system, like wolves emerging from winter fog. Admiral Park Dasam studied the tactical display with the calm expression of someone who had seen worse situations before breakfast. Analysis, she ordered. Commander Choi. Minji's fingers flew across her console. The intelligence officer had learned 6 alien languages during the 18-hour journey. a feat that would have taken most species months to accomplish. Her brain, enhanced with neural implants earned during the Luna Wars, processed information faster than most computers. 1,200 Vraktar vessels confirmed. They've established a blockade around the inhabited worlds. Orbital bombardment is ongoing. She paused, her enhanced vision zooming in on the planet's surface. Cities are burning, but I'm detecting survivor clusters. The aliens who called us are still alive. For now, muttered Captain Lee Hyunwoo from his position at the tactical station. The commander of the UES Seoul had fought in more campaigns than most people could remember. His ship bore scars from the Titan Massacre, the Europa Rebellion, and a dozen other conflicts that never made it into the history books. Admiral Park studied the enemy formation. The Vraktar ships were massive, each one the size of a human city. They moved in loose groups, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Their formation showed all the discipline of a pack of wild animals, effective for terrorizing civilians, useless against real soldiers. "What do we know about the enemy?" she asked. Commander Choi pulled up the intelligence files. Vraktar horde, nomadic raiders. They travel from system to system, destroying everything they can't use. No permanent settlements, no infrastructure, no supply chains. They carry everything they need with them. Weaknesses? Their strength. They're used to enemies who break and run at the first sign of resistance. They've never faced prolonged opposition. Admiral Park nodded. It was a familiar pattern. Throughout human history, successful raiders had always been defeated the same way. By people who refused to be intimidated, and who were willing to pay the price for victory. "Communications," she ordered. "Open a channel to both the aliens who called us and the Vraktar fleet." "Both at once, ma'am?" "Both at once," the channel opened. On one side of the split screen appeared Ambassador Velthara, her alien features twisted with desperate hope. On the other side was something that looked like a nightmare given form, the Vraktar War Alpha Grexthor. The creature was twice the size of a human with armored skin and teeth designed for tearing flesh. "This is Admiral Park Dasam of the Terran Fleet," she said calmly. "We received your distress call." Ambassador Velthara's large eyes filled with tears. "You came. You actually came." War Alpha Grexthor's response was a laugh that sounded like grinding metal. "More prey comes to feed us." "How generous." Admiral Park's expression didn't change. She had heard similar threats from human warlords, alien rebels, and once from a rogue AI that thought it could intimidate humanity into surrender. They were all dead now. "To the Kethmori," she said, "we're here. Stay out of our way." "To the Vraktar," she continued, her voice flat as winter ice. "You have 10 minutes to leave this system." The reaction was immediate. Ambassador Velthara gasped in shock. War Alpha Grexthor's laughter grew louder. 10 minutes? The Vraktar leader roared. "You arrive with 200 tiny ships and threaten us?" "We are 1,200 strong. We have conquered 1,000 worlds." 9 minutes, 30 seconds, Admiral Park replied, checking her chronometer. Commander Choi was running continuous scans of the enemy fleet. What she saw confirmed her suspicions about typical raider psychology. The Vraktar ships were spreading out, positioning themselves to surround the human fleet. It was an intimidation tactic that probably worked well against civilized species. "Admiral," Captain Lee said quietly, "their weapons are powered up. They're preparing to attack." "Of course they are." Admiral Park opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Park. Rules of engagement are simple. They want to fight, we give them a fight. They want to run, we let them run. They want to surrender, we accept. Any questions?" The response came from Captain Shin Bora, commander of the stealth ship UES Busan. Her voice carried the confidence of someone who had fought pirates in the asteroid belt. "Where one mistake meant death in the cold vacuum of space, no questions, Admiral. Just a request, go ahead. Can I have the big one?" Admiral Park almost smiled. Captain Shin had volunteered for every dangerous mission since joining the fleet. She was the kind of person who saw a problem and immediately started thinking of ways to solve it, usually involving explosives. "The command ship is yours, Captain. Try not to enjoy yourself too much." War Alpha Grexthor was still issuing threats when the 10 minutes expired. He was in the middle of describing what he would do to the human prisoners when Admiral Park cut him off. "Time's up," she said simply. The UES Busan had been moving during the entire conversation, invisible to Vraktar sensors and ignored by enemies who thought humans were just another victim species. Captain Shin had positioned her ship perfectly. directly beneath the massive Raktar command vessel. The antimatter charge she detonated was small by human standards, roughly equivalent to a tactical nuclear weapon. It punched through the command ship's armor like a needle through paper and turned the entire vessel into a brief new star. War Alpha Grexthor's threats ended in a flash of brilliant light. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, neither the Kethmori nor the remaining Vraktar seemed to understand what had just happened. Then the reality sank in. The humans had just eliminated the enemy's command ship as casually as swatting a fly. "All ships," Admiral Park ordered, "advance." The human fleet moved forward with the mechanical precision of a machine designed for one purpose. These weren't glory-seeking warriors or terrified defenders. They were professionals, approaching their job with the same methodical efficiency they brought to everything else. Master Sergeant Kang Dae-young, commanding the Marine contingent aboard the Seoul, watched the tactical display with satisfaction. He had fought on 20 different worlds in every environment from Arctic tundra to molten lava fields. This looked like it was going to be a straightforward operation. "How long until we reach optimal combat range?" he asked. 3 minutes, Captain Lee replied. Commander Choi was monitoring Vraktar communications, her enhanced hearing picking up panicked conversations across the enemy fleet. "They're confused," she reported. "They've never seen tactics like this. Some ships are trying to retreat. Others are demanding immediate attack. Typical raiders," Admiral Park observed. "No real command structure once you remove the leader." "What about the civilians?" "Survivor clusters are holding position. They're staying away from the combat zone." "Good. Signal the fleet. Weapons free." The human ships opened fire at maximum range, their weapons designed for precision rather than intimidation. Unlike the massive energy cannons favored by most species, human weapons were small, fast, and numerous. They struck like a swarm of angry wasps. Each hit precisely targeted to disable specific systems. The Vraktar response was immediate and predictable. They charged forward, relying on superior numbers and firepower to overwhelm their smaller opponents. It was exactly what the humans had expected them to do. What followed wasn't a battle in the traditional sense. It was a demonstration of what happened when professional soldiers met amateur raiders. The humans moved like dancers, their ships weaving through enemy fire while delivering precisely targeted attacks. Every shot had a purpose. Every maneuver served a tactical goal. Within the first hour, the Vraktar had lost 200 ships. The humans had lost none. Ambassador Velthara watched from her damaged command center in amazement. These humans fought like nothing she had ever seen. They showed no anger, no fear, no hesitation. They approached warfare like engineers solving a problem, systematically, efficiently, and with absolute confidence in their methods. "Who are they?" she whispered to herself. The answer was becoming clear with every passing minute. They were the children of a world that had never known peace, taught by 4 billion years of natural selection that only the adaptable survived. They were the products of every disaster, every war, every catastrophe that had ever struck their home. They were exactly what the galaxy needed, whether it knew it or not. Wing Commander Yoon Seo-jin pulled her fighter into a dive that would have liquefied most aliens, but her body had been conditioned by years of flying through Earth's storm systems. Her ship, the fighter everyone called Rust Bucket because it looked like it had been welded together from spare parts, screamed toward a cluster of Raktar destroyers. "Go, squadron. Form up on me," she ordered through gritted teeth. The G-forces would have been crushing if she hadn't spent her childhood flying crop dusters through tornado seasons in Kansas. Her squadron followed her lead. 12 fighters that looked fragile compared to the massive enemy ships but moved like sharks in deep water. They had learned to fight in the asteroid belt, where a single mistake meant becoming a frozen corpse floating in space forever. "Target the sensor arrays first," Yoon commanded. "Make them deaf and blind, then we cut them apart piece by piece." The Vraktar destroyers opened fire with enough energy to level a city. The beams passed harmlessly through space where the human fighters had been a split second earlier. What the raiders hadn't expected was that humans had learned to dodge by studying their own predators. The way a bird avoids a hawk, the way a fish escapes a shark. Lieutenant Kang Soo-ho, flying off Yoon's left wing, rolled his fighter through a gap between 2 energy beams that was barely wider than his ship. "These guys shoot like they're trying to intimidate us," he called out. "All flash, no accuracy." "Stay focused," Yoon replied, but she knew what he meant. The Vraktar fought like bullies who had never met real resistance. Their weapons were designed to terrify, not to kill efficiently. It was the difference between a human gangster and a human soldier. She lined up her shot on the lead destroyer's main sensor cluster and fired. Human weapons were smaller than what most species used, but they were precise. The sensor array exploded in a shower of sparks, leaving the massive ship partially blind. Down on the planet's surface, Lieutenant Colonel Bae Jung-min was discovering that ground combat with the Vraktar was even more one-sided than the space battle. His Marines had dropped in assault pods that came down like meteorites, their heat shields glowing red as they punched through the atmosphere. The Vraktar ground forces were impressive to look at. Each warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, with natural armor plating and weapons that could punch holes through solid stone. They had arranged themselves in defensive positions around groups of Kethmori civilians, using the innocents as human shields. Classic terrorist tactic, Sergeant Park In-ho observed, studying the enemy positions through his rifle scope. The 40-year veteran had seen every variation of asymmetric warfare during his career. They think having hostages makes them untouchable. They're about to learn different, Lieutenant Colonel Bae replied. He opened his tactical map and began issuing orders. His Marines spread out around the enemy positions, moving with the silent efficiency of people who had trained in Earth's deepest jungles and highest mountains. Major Lim Hai-wan, the battalion's combat engineer, was studying the problem from a technical perspective. She had learned her trade building and destroying fortifications during the urban pacification wars, where every building was a potential fortress and every street was a killing ground. "Sir," she called to Lieutenant Colonel Bae, "I've got a solution for the hostage situation." "I'm listening." "We go through the shield." What she meant became clear over the next hour. Instead of trying to fight around the civilian hostages, the humans created new routes. Major Lim's engineers used shaped charges to blow holes through solid rock, creating tunnels that led directly beneath the Vraktar positions. Combat teams moved through storm drains, subway systems, and maintenance tunnels that the raiders had never bothered to secure. The attack came from everywhere at once. Vraktar warriors who had been confident in their defensive positions suddenly found human soldiers appearing from underground, from rooftops, from inside buildings they thought were empty. The Marines moved like ghosts, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Sergeant Park found himself face to face with a Vraktar warrior who was nearly twice his size, and armed with a weapon that could cut through tank armor. The alien roared a challenge, expecting the small human to flee in terror. Instead, Park shot him in the knee with a weapon designed for hunting Earth's most dangerous predators. The warrior collapsed and Park moved on to the next target without breaking stride. He had learned long ago that the biggest and loudest enemies were often the easiest to defeat. Up in orbit, Wing Commander Yoon was discovering that the Vraktar had one major weakness. They had never learned to fight as a team. Each ship operated independently, trying to claim individual glory rather than working together for victory. "They're breaking formation," Lieutenant Kang reported. "Half their fleet is trying to retreat, the other half is charging straight at us." "Let them come," Yoon replied. She had fought human pirates who were better organized than this. "Angel Squadron, take the runners. Ghost Squadron will handle the heroes." The Vraktar ships that chose to fight came in fast and aggressive, their weapons blazing. But aggression without discipline was just a quick way to die. The human fighters wove through their formation like needles through cloth, targeting engines, weapons, and life support systems with surgical precision. Captain Jang Kyung-ho, commanding the artillery platform UES Thunder, was having the most fun he'd had in years. His ship's main guns were designed for precision bombardment, originally built to take out specific targets on Earth's surface from orbital platforms. "Target acquired," his gunner reported. "Vraktar troop concentration, grid 77 Alpha. What's the collateral damage assessment?" "Clean shot, sir. No civilian structures within the blast radius. Fire." The kinetic projectile that struck the Vraktar position had been accelerated to nearly 30% of light speed. It hit with the force of a small nuclear weapon, but with none of the radioactive aftermath. The enemy troops simply ceased to exist, along with a perfectly circular crater 50 meters deep. Dr. No Yeon-bi was working in the field hospital that had been set up in a damaged Kethmori school. As a combat medic, she had learned to save lives while battles raged around her. Her hands moved efficiently as she treated wounded civilians, her mind calculating dosages for alien physiology, even as artillery fire lit the sky outside. "Doctor," one of her assistants called, "we've got incoming wounded from the northern sector. Human or alien?" "Both." Dr. No nodded and prepared her equipment. She would save anyone she could, enemy or ally. It was a principle humans had learned during their own wars. Hatred was temporary, but medical knowledge was forever. A Kethmori child was brought in, her small body broken by falling debris. Dr. No worked over her with the same intensity she had brought to treating human soldiers during the Martian campaigns. The child's alien biology was different, but trauma was trauma, and pain was universal. "Will she live?" the child's mother asked in broken human language. "Yes," Dr. No replied without looking up from her work. "She'll live." Outside, the battle was reaching its climax. The Vraktar, faced with an enemy that refused to be intimidated and couldn't be defeated by brute force, were making their final desperate plays. Some ships tried to ram human vessels. Others attempted to bombard the planet's surface in spite. A few tried to negotiate surrender. Admiral Park, watching from the Soul's Bridge, felt the familiar satisfaction of a job well done. The enemy was broken, the civilians were safe, and her people had performed exactly as expected. It wasn't glory or heroism. It was just another day at work for the children of Earth. "Status report," she ordered. 80% of enemy forces destroyed or disabled," Commander Choi reported. "Remaining ships are either retreating or requesting surrender terms. And our losses? 14 fighters damaged, 2 destroyers with minor hull breaches. No fatalities," Admiral Park nodded. The numbers were better than she had hoped, but about what she had expected. When professionals fought amateurs, the outcome was rarely in doubt. "Signal the survivors," she ordered. "Standard terms. Surrender, disarm, and submit to judgment for war crimes. Anyone who doesn't accept can leave the system and never return." The battle was over. All that remained was the cleanup, and humans had plenty of experience with that too. The remaining Vraktar War Alpha, a massive creature called Thokvar, stood in the ruins of what had been the capital city's main plaza. Around him, the last of his warriors waited for the humans to come. They had tried to retreat, but human ships had appeared in every escape route. They had tried to hide, but human sensors found them everywhere. Now there was nowhere left to run. "They fight like demons," one of his sub-commanders growled. The warrior's armor was cracked, his weapon nearly depleted. "How can such small creatures be so dangerous?" Thokvar didn't answer. He was thinking about the battle reports, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. The Vraktar horde had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same tactics. Overwhelming force, brutal intimidation, and the simple fact that most species would rather surrender than fight. But these humans were different. They didn't seem to understand that they were supposed to be afraid. Sergeant Park Inho approached the plaza on foot, his rifle held casually in his hands. Behind him came a squad of Marines, but they moved without urgency. To them, this was just the final cleanup of a successful operation. Park had seen the intelligence reports on the Vraktar. They were impressive physical specimens built for intimidation and close combat. In a fair fight, any one of them could probably defeat 3 or 4 humans. Park had no intention of fighting fair. "You the boss?" he called out to Thokvar in the alien's own language. The translation software had decoded Vraktar speech patterns during the battle, and Park had always been good with languages. Thokvar stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over the human soldier. "I am War Alpha Thokvar of the Crimson Fang clan. You are the leader of these humans." Park looked around at his squad and chuckled. "Me? No, I'm just a sergeant. Been one for about 20 years now. Never wanted to be anything else." The alien warrior was confused. In Vraktar culture, only leaders challenged other leaders. The idea that a common soldier would approach him directly was unthinkable. "Then send me your War Alpha," Thokvar demanded. "I challenge him to single combat. Winner takes all." "That's not really how we do things," Park replied. He was studying the alien's stance, noting the way Thokvar favored his left side. "Probably an old injury, maybe from a previous campaign. But if you want to fight someone, I guess that's me." Thokvar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You are nothing. I have killed thousands in single combat. I am the champion of 7 worlds." "That's nice," Park said mildly. He was checking his rifle, making sure it was properly loaded. "Old habits from a lifetime of warfare. I'm a sergeant from Detroit. We done talking?" The alien's roar of rage echoed off the ruined buildings. He charged forward, his massive weapon raised high, expecting to cut the small human in half with a single blow. Park stepped to one side and shot him in the knee. Thokvar collapsed, his leg no longer able to support his weight. He looked up at the human in shock and confusion. Where was the honor? Where was the glory of single combat? You shot me, he said, his voice filled with disbelief. Yeah, well, you were trying to kill me, Park replied. He walked over and kicked the alien's weapon away. This isn't a movie, big guy. This is work. Dr. No Yunbi was still working in the field hospital when they brought Thokvar in. The massive alien warrior was restrained with enough chains to anchor a ship, but he was conscious and surprisingly cooperative. Why do you heal me? He asked as she examined his wounded knee. I am your enemy. Dr. No looked up from her instruments. She had been working for 16 hours straight, treating both human and alien wounded without distinction. Her hands were steady, but her voice carried the exhaustion of someone who had seen too much suffering in one day. Because you're hurt, she said simply. That's what doctors do. We fix things, but I would have killed you, all of you. We came here to destroy everything. I know. Dr. No prepared a local anesthetic, but you didn't. And now you're hurt, so I'm going to fix your knee. Thokvar stared at her with alien eyes that were slowly beginning to understand something fundamental about these humans. They weren't just warriors. They were something else entirely. Something he had never encountered in a lifetime of conquest and destruction. Captain Yang Kyung-ho was overseeing the final cleanup operations from his command post in the captured Vraktar Command Center. His artillery teams had switched from destruction to construction, using their precision targeting systems to clear debris and create safe passages for civilian evacuation. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're getting signals from other systems. Looks like word is spreading about what happened here. What kind of signals? Mixed. Some species are sending congratulations. Others are demanding to know who we are and what we're doing in their galaxy. And a few? The officer paused. A few are asking if we're available for hire. Captain Yang nodded. It was what he had expected. News of the battle would spread quickly, and the galaxy's response would be predictable. Some would be grateful, some would be afraid, and some would see opportunity. What's our official response? Admiral Park says to refer all inquiries to Earth Command. We're just following orders. On the planet's surface, Major Lim Hae-wan was working with Kethmori engineers to restore basic infrastructure to the damaged cities. Her teams moved with the efficiency of people who had rebuilt entire continents. After natural disasters, the power grid here is completely different from ours, she explained to her human assistants while a group of alien engineers watched in fascination. But the principles are the same. Electricity is electricity no matter what planet you're on. One of the Kethmori engineers, a tall creature with crystalline features, approached hesitantly. Excuse me, but how do you know so much about our technology? We've never met your species before. Major Lim looked up from the power coupling she was repairing. We've been listening to your broadcast for about 40 years. Picked up a lot from your educational programs, she smiled. Your children's shows are particularly informative. The alien engineer stared at her in amazement. You learned our technology from children's programs? Kids' shows have to explain things simply, Major Lim replied. Makes them perfect for reverse engineering. Up in orbit, Admiral Park was dealing with a more complex problem. The galactic powers that had refused to help the Kethmori were now demanding explanations for humanity's intervention. The Alteran Federation's representative appeared on her view screen with the arrogance of someone used to being the most powerful voice in any conversation. Admiral Park, you have violated galactic sovereignty laws by intervening in this conflict without authorization. Park studied the alien diplomat with the expression she usually reserved for particularly stupid pirates. Authorization from who? From the Galactic Council, of course. All military interventions must be approved by... We're not members of your council, Park interrupted. We never signed your treaties. We never agreed to your laws. As far as we're concerned, you're just another group of aliens with opinions. The diplomat's face changed color, which Park assumed indicated anger or shock. You cannot simply ignore galactic law. Watch us, Park replied, and cut the connection. Wing Commander Yoon was leading the final patrol sweep of the system when her sensors detected something interesting. A small cluster of ships was approaching from deep space. Not Vraktar, but something else entirely. Unknown vessels. This is Commander Yoon of the Terran Fleet. Identify yourselves and state your intentions. The response came in heavily accented but understandable human language. Commander Yoon, this is Captain Veltana of the Rigelian Free Company. We came as soon as we heard. Are there any Vraktar left for us to fight? Yoon checked her tactical display. The approaching ships were small, fast, and heavily armed. Their design was unfamiliar, but their intent was clear. They were warriors coming to join a battle that was already over. I'm afraid you're too late, Captain. The Vraktar are either dead, captured, or running away. There was a pause, then laughter from the alien ship. Damn, we always miss the good fights. Maybe next time? Maybe, Yoon agreed. She was beginning to understand that humanity wasn't the only species in the galaxy that knew how to fight. They were just the only one that had shown up when it mattered. As the human fleet prepared to depart the Kethmori system, Ambassador Velthara stood in her damaged office and watched the alien ships that had saved her people. She still couldn't quite believe what had happened. In less than 72 hours, these humans had accomplished what the entire galactic community had declared impossible. How do we thank them? She asked High Council Leader Mordain. The old politician was reading reports from across the galaxy. The news of humanity's victory was spreading quickly, and the reactions were as varied as the species themselves. I don't think they want thanks, he replied. I think they just want to go home. But Velthara knew that wasn't entirely true. The humans had left behind more than just a military victory. They had left behind a message, one that every species in the galaxy would have to consider. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, there was a world full of creatures who would answer when others called for help. They wouldn't ask for payment or demand tribute. They wouldn't negotiate or hesitate or form committees to study the problem. The alarm screamed through the monitoring station, a sound that Commander Zethus had not heard in 12 years of service. His forearms moved across the control panel with practiced speed, his compound eyes scanning the data that flooded his screens. Something was out there in the deep dark of space, and it was big. Report, Zethus clicked, his mandibles sharp with command. The junior officer, a young Klarn named Sifa, trembled as she spoke. Commander, we have detected an unknown energy signature in Sector 447. The readings are impossible. Nothing is impossible. Show me. The main screen lit up with the scan results. Zethus felt his breathing tubes constrict. The object was massive, easily 3 times the size of a council dreadnought. It drifted through space like a dead thing, but the power readings suggested something still lived within its metal shell. Is it a station? A colony ship? Zethus asked. No, sir. The configuration matches a warship, but it is not in our database. Not Council, not Krill, not any known species. Zethus stood silent for a moment. In the 3,000 years since the Galactic Council had formed, every spacefaring species had been catalogued, contacted, or observed. There were no unknowns anymore. The galaxy had been mapped, settled, and organized. This did not fit. Prepare the diplomatic science vessel. We will investigate personally. 3 hours later, Zethus stood on the bridge of the Seeker's Hope, watching the unknown ship grow larger in the viewport. Up close, it was even more terrifying. The hull was scarred and burned, marked by weapons fire that must have been incredible. Whole sections looked melted. Others showed impact craters deep enough to swallow smaller ships. What kind of battle did this survive? Whispered Valora, the Avian Council representative beside him. Her feathers were flat against her body, a sign of fear in her species. One we should be grateful we were not part of, Zethus replied. As they drew closer, the ship's details became clearer. The design was brutal and practical. There were no elegant curves like council ships favored. This vessel was built like a hammer, meant to strike and strike hard. Massive cannons lined its sides. Launch bays gaped open like wounds. Strange symbols marked the hull in white paint. Words in a language the computer struggled to translate. I have something, called out the linguistics officer, a 6-legged trell named Gorvin. The translation matrix is working on the language. It is old, very old. Not used in council space for... Wait. This cannot be correct. What is it? Zethus demanded. The language is classified as Terran, human, but that is impossible. Humans are primitive. They do not have space travel. They were quarantined in their home system over 200 years ago. The bridge fell silent. Every officer knew the story of humanity. They had been discovered 2 centuries ago, a young species just beginning to reach for the stars. The council had observed them but decided not to make contact. Humans were too violent, too aggressive, too unpredictable. When the krill swarm had been detected moving toward human space, the council had voted to do nothing. They had sealed off that region of space and moved on. No one had checked on humanity since. What does the writing say? Valora asked, her voice quiet. Gorvin's translator hummed. UNSC Retribution. Terran Deep Space Navy, he paused. There is more. We stand vigilant. We strike first, we end wars. Zethus felt a chill run through his body. If this was truly a human ship, then everything the Council believed about humanity was wrong. This was not the vessel of a primitive species. This was a weapon of war, built by survivors who had learned to fight in the darkness. Scan for life signs, he ordered. The sensors worked for several minutes before the science officer reported back. I am detecting very faint life signs, Commander. Deep within the ship, they appear to be in some kind of stasis. Cryosleep, perhaps. How many? Over 800 signatures. Zethus made his decision. Prepare a boarding team. Full environmental suits. Weapons on stun only. We will enter this ship and find out what happened to humanity. The airlock breach was easy. The human ship's systems were in emergency mode, powered down to almost nothing. The boarding team of 6 moved through corridors that were too small, too cramped for comfort. Everything was built for human proportions. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows, making the interior feel like the inside of a predator's mouth. Warning signs covered every wall. Gorvin translated as they walked. Danger. High radiation. Weapons hot. Authorized personnel only. Reactor critical zones. The humans had marked their ship like a minefield. They found the first human in the medical bay. She floated in a cryopod, frozen in time. Her face was young but carried scars. Burns on her neck. A patch over one eye. Her uniform was military, covered in symbols and badges that meant nothing to the council team. There are hundreds more, the science officer reported. This entire section is filled with cryopods. Zethus studied the sleeping human. She looked so ordinary, small, fragile, soft-skinned, not the appearance of a warrior race. But appearances, he was learning, meant nothing. We should wake one of them, Valora suggested. We need answers, agreed. Find someone with command insignia. They located a pod deeper in the ship. The nameplate read Captain Sarah Chen, UNSC Navy, serial number 447-882-019. Her uniform carried more symbols than the others. This was a leader. The science officer studied the pod controls. The interface is simple, primitive but effective. I can initiate the wake sequence. Do it. The pod hummed to life. Liquid drained away. The human inside began to move, her body jerking as systems came online. Her eyes snapped open and immediately she began to fight, her hands moving to her waist for weapons that were not there. Stand down, Zethus commanded, his translator broadcasting in the human language. We mean no harm. We are from the Galactic Council. The human stopped moving. Her one good eye focused on Zethus, taking in his insectoid form, his forearms, his compound eyes. She did not scream. She did not panic. Instead, she spoke in a voice rough from years of sleep. Galactic Council? How long have I been out? We were hoping you could tell us, Valora said gently. Your ship was found drifting in neutral space. We do not know how it got here. Captain Chen looked around the medical bay, seeing her crew in their pods. Her face hardened. Computer, what is the date? A mechanical voice responded from speakers. Galactic Standard Year 2847. You have been in cryo-sleep for 43 years, 6 months, and 12 days. Chen closed her eye for a moment. When she opened it again, something dangerous lived there. Then we survived. The mission was a success. What mission? Zethus asked. Captain Chen looked at him, and Zethus saw something in her expression that made him want to step back. It was the look of someone who had seen hell and walked through it. The mission to kill the Krill Hive Queen and stop the invasion of Sol System. She said simply, we destroyed their fleet. All 40,000 bioships, but it cost us everything. She paused. Tell me, council member, is Earth still standing? Zethus did not know how to answer. He did not even know if humanity still existed. The boarding team exchanged glances. Captain Chen saw their hesitation and understood. Her voice dropped to something cold and sharp. You do not know. You abandoned us, it was not a question. The council quarantined us and left us to die. We had no choice, Valora began. The Krill. We fought them, Chen interrupted. For 200 years we fought them alone. And we won. She pulled herself out of the pod, standing on shaky legs. Now I am going to ask you again, and you are going to give me answers. Where is Earth? Where is humanity? And what has the Council been doing while we bled? Commander Zethus realized in that moment that the galaxy had changed. Humanity had not died in the darkness. They had been forged by it. And now they were back. The question was, what would they do next? The conference room aboard the Council station felt too warm. Captain Sarah Chen sat across from Commander Zethus and 5 other Council representatives, each from a different species. They stared at her like she was a bomb that might explode at any moment. Perhaps she was. We need to understand what happened, Zethus said carefully. The Council lost contact with humanity 203 years ago. We believed your species was confined to one solar system, yet here you are, in a warship more advanced than anything in our records. Chen leaned back in her chair. Her body still ached from cryo-sleep, but her mind was sharp. She had spent the last 6 hours reviewing what little data the Retribution's damaged computers could provide. The picture was not complete, but it was enough. You want the story? Fine. I will give you the short version. She tapped the table and a holographic display flickered to life. The image showed Earth blue and beautiful. This is home. 200 years ago, we were just starting to colonize Mars and the outer planets. We were happy. Stupid, but happy. The image changed, showing a dark shape approaching the solar system. It looked organic, like a massive insect made of metal and flesh. Then they came. The Krill. We did not even know aliens existed, and suddenly we were fighting for our lives. Chen's voice remained flat, emotionless. They hit Earth first. Kinetic strikes from orbit, bioweapons, swarm troops. 3 billion people died in the first month, Valora gasped. Several other representatives made sounds of horror. Chen did not look at them. We fought back with everything we had. Nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, anything that could kill. It was not enough. The Krill kept coming, so we ran. We evacuated everyone we could to Mars, to the asteroid colonies, to anywhere the Krill had not reached. The hologram showed fleets of ships, small and desperate, fleeing burning cities. The governments collapsed. The old nations meant nothing anymore. There was only humanity, and we were dying, so we formed the UNSC, the United Nations Space Command. One military, one goal, survive. Chen stood up and began to pace. The council representatives watched her like prey watching a predator. For 50 years we fought them, ship by ship, station by station, planet by planet. The Krill were stronger, faster, more numerous. But we learned. We adapted. We built ships designed to kill them. We developed weapons that could crack their bioarmor. We trained soldiers who could fight in zero gravity, in hard vacuum, in conditions that would kill most living things. She stopped and looked directly at Zethus. We became what we needed to be. We became monsters to fight monsters. The hologram changed again, showing the Retribution in its prime. It was beautiful and terrible, bristling with weapons. The Retribution was one of our last-generation dreadnoughts. We built her to do one thing: destroy the Krill Hive fleet that was preparing to launch a final assault on Earth. The mission was simple. Jump into their territory, find their queen, and kill everything. A suicide mission, Zethus said quietly. Yes. But we volunteered anyway. Chen smiled, but there was no joy in it. We hit them hard. 40,000 Krill bioships defending their queen. We killed them all. Used every weapon we had. Nuclear torpedoes. Antimatter warheads. We even rammed 3 of their carriers when we ran out of ammunition. She touched her eye patch. I was on the bridge when their suicide fighters hit us. The explosion killed my second officer and half the bridge crew. I lost my eye. We lost main power. Life support failed in 6 sections. But we kept fighting. The room was silent. Chen continued. In the end, we won. We killed the queen. Without her, the Krill hive mind collapsed. The invasion stopped. Earth was saved, she paused. But the Retribution was dying. Our FTL drive was damaged. We could not make it home. So I ordered the crew into cryo-sleep. We set the ship to drift toward the galactic core, hoping someone would find us eventually. She sat back down heavily. I thought I would never wake up. I thought we would drift forever, a ghost ship full of dead heroes. Instead, I wake up to find the council standing over me asking questions. Valora leaned forward, her feathers ruffling with emotion. Captain Chen, I am truly sorry for what your species endured. If we had known. But you did know, Chen interrupted coldly. The council knew the krill were coming. Your records show it. You detected them moving toward our space. You could have warned us. You could have helped us. Instead, you quarantined us and watched. Zethus's mandibles clicked nervously. It was not that simple. The council feared the krill. We had fought them before thousands of years ago. We barely survived. The decision was made to contain them, to keep them away from council space, by letting them destroy humanity instead. Yes. Zethus did not try to deny it. It was wrong. I will not defend it. The council chose to sacrifice your species to save our own. Chen stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. At least you are honest. I can respect that. What will you do now? Asked a reptilian representative named Krish. Will you return to human space? That depends, Chen said. You are going to tell me everything you know about what happened to humanity while I was sleeping. You are going to show me your records, your surveillance data, everything. And then I am going to decide whether the council is a friend or an enemy. That is not how this works, Krish said sharply. You are in our space. You have no authority here. Chen smiled, and this time it was genuine and terrifying. Let me explain something to you. The Retribution may be damaged, but she is not dead. My crew is still asleep on that ship. And even in her current state, she carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. So yes, this is exactly how this works. Zethus raised a hand before the situation could escalate. Enough. Captain Chen, you have earned the truth. I will provide you with all the information we have on humanity's current status. He activated a larger holographic display. Chen's breath caught in her throat. The image showed the Sol system, but it was transformed. Earth was surrounded by massive defense platforms. Mars had been terraformed. The asteroid belt was filled with stations and shipyards. And there were ships. Hundreds of ships, all bearing the same design philosophy as the Retribution. Humanity survived, Zethus said. After the krill invasion ended, your species expanded rapidly. You now control 32 systems. Your population is estimated at 40 billion. And your military? He hesitated. Your military is formidable. Chen felt tears on her face but did not wipe them away. Earth lived. Humanity thrived. Everything they had sacrificed, every death, every horror had not been in vain. Show me more, she whispered. Zethus showed her everything. Human colonies spreading through space. New technologies developed from captured krill bioships. Defensive fleets that patrolled human borders. A civilization that had been forged in fire and emerged stronger. Your species calls this period the Long War, Valora explained softly. It is taught to every human child. The time when humanity stood alone against extinction and refused to fall. Chen wiped her face and stood straight. I need to contact Earth. I need to let them know we are alive. Already arranged, Zethus said. A message drone is being prepared. It will reach your territory in 3 days. Thank you. Chen took a deep breath. Now tell me about the krill. Are they gone? Did we destroy them all? The council representatives exchanged glances. Zethus's voice was heavy when he spoke. No, Captain. The krill still exist. Your attack crippled them, sent them into retreat. But they have been rebuilding in the dark spaces between galaxies. And our long-range sensors have detected something disturbing. He changed the display. It showed a massive fleet, larger than anything Chen had ever seen, moving through deep space. They are coming back, and this time they are not just targeting humanity. They are coming for everyone. Chen looked at the impossible fleet and felt something cold settle in her stomach. The war was not over. It had only just begun. She met Zethus's compound eyes. Then I suggest the Council and humanity start talking. Because if we are going to survive what is coming, we are going to need each other. Agreed, Zethus said. The question is, will humanity help the Council that abandoned them? Chen thought about her crew, sleeping peacefully in their pods. She thought about Earth, thriving and strong. She thought about the billions who had died so that humanity could survive. That, she said quietly, is not my decision to make alone. The Galactic Council chamber was built to inspire awe. Its dome stretched 300 meters high, decorated with crystals that represented every member species. Thousands of representatives filled the curved seating areas, creating a symphony of different voices, languages, and sounds. Today, that symphony was chaos. Commander Zethis stood at the central podium trying to maintain order. It was not working. "This is madness," shouted a Greenland representative, their blue skin flushed with anger. "We cannot trust the humans. They are violent, unpredictable, dangerous. They are our only hope," countered Valora from her perch. "The Krill are coming. We need the humans' help. We need to destroy that ship before they bring war to our space." Captain Chen sat in a special viewing area, watching the chaos unfold. Beside her sat her chief engineer, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, whom she had awakened 2 days ago. He was a tall man with dark skin and clever eyes. Right now, those eyes were studying the council chamber's computer systems with great interest. "They are scared," Chen said quietly. "They should be," Webb replied. "I have been reviewing their military records. The council has not fought a real war in 600 years. They do not know how anymore. They have diplomacy and trade agreements. We have survival instinct." Chen smiled slightly. "Is the package ready?" "Almost. Their security is good, but not good enough. Odin is working through their firewalls now. Give me another hour." Chen nodded. Odin was the Retribution's artificial intelligence, a learning computer that had helped them survive the war. It was old, damaged, but still functioning. And right now it was quietly infiltrating the council's information network, gathering everything it could find. Knowledge was power, and Chen needed all the power she could get. Zethis finally managed to quiet the chamber. "Order! We must have order!" His translator boomed through the space. "We have a decision to make. The Krill fleet will arrive in 3 weeks. We must decide how to respond." A hologram appeared above the central floor, showing the approaching Krill armada. Even through the projection, it looked terrifying. Millions of bioships, moving like a swarm of locusts through space. "Our defensive fleets cannot stop this," said Admiral Kernick, a reptilian species that commanded the Council's military. "We have 700 ships of the line. This Krill fleet has over 3 million bioships. We will be overwhelmed in hours." "What about evacuation?" someone asked. "There is not enough time. 17 worlds lie in their path, 40 billion citizens. We cannot evacuate them all." The chamber fell silent. Chen could see the fear on every face. These were species that had lived in peace for centuries. They had forgotten what it meant to face extinction. "We could negotiate," suggested an elderly Quill representative. "Offer them tribute, territory, whatever they want." "The Krill do not negotiate," Chen said, her voice cutting through the silence. Every eye turned to her. "They do not want your territory or your resources. They want to consume everything. That is what they do. That is all they do." She stood up and walked to the podium. Zethis did not stop her. "I have fought the Krill for my entire adult life," Chen continued. "I have seen what they do to planets they conquer. They strip away everything. Every plant, every animal, every microbe. They consume it all and move on. You cannot bargain with that, you cannot reason with it, you can only fight it." "And how did that work out for your species?" sneered the Greenland representative. "You lost. Billions of people." "But we survived," Chen said coldly. "Can you say the same? Will your species survive the next 3 weeks?" The representative had no answer. Chen activated her personal data pad, projecting files onto the main hologram. "These are combat logs from the Retribution, battle footage from our war with the Krill. I am going to show you what you are facing, and then you are going to understand why you need humanity." The first video played. It showed a human destroyer fighting 3 Krill bioships. The human vessel was smaller, slower, but it fought with a ferocity that made the council representatives gasp. When it was about to be destroyed, it rammed one Krill ship and detonated its reactor, taking out all 3 enemies. "This is what human warfare looks like," Chen narrated. "We do not retreat. We do not surrender. We fight until we win, or until we die." More videos played. Human Marines in powered armor boarding Krill vessels, fighting in conditions that would kill most council species. Nuclear weapons being deployed at ranges that seemed suicidally close. ships sacrificing themselves to save others. Admiral Kernek watched with growing horror and fascination. Your tactics are brutal, effective, but brutal. We use what works, Chen said. The Krill are stronger than us, faster than us, more numerous. So we developed weapons and tactics to counter their advantages. Kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds, antimatter warheads, boarding actions, close-range combat, whatever it took to survive. She paused the footage and looked around the chamber. The Council abandoned humanity to fight this threat alone. For 200 years we bled while you watched. Now they are coming for you. And you have a choice. You can face them alone the way you forced us to, or you can ask for our help. And what would be your price? Asked a Trell representative suspiciously. What would humanity demand in exchange? Chen smiled. That is the interesting question, is it not? What would be fair payment for saving your civilizations? The chamber erupted into arguing again. Chen let them fight for a moment before holding up her hand. Fortunately for you, I am not the one who sets humanity's price. That decision belongs to Earth and the UNSC Command. I have already sent them a full report of the situation. They will arrive in 1 week to negotiate terms. What? Zethus's mandibles clicked in surprise. How did you contact them? Webb stood up, grinning. We borrowed your communication array, hope you do not mind. Odin needed the bandwidth. That is impossible. Our systems are encrypted. Not anymore, Webb said cheerfully. We also borrowed your intelligence files on human space, Krill movements, and Council military capabilities. Thank you for that. Very helpful. The chamber exploded in outrage. Representatives shouted about violations and crimes. Chen waited for them to exhaust themselves. You can complain all you want, she said when they finally quieted down. But here is your reality. The Krill are coming. The Council cannot stop them. Humanity can. Whether we choose to help you depends entirely on how the next week goes. This is blackmail, someone shouted. No, Valora said, standing up. This is justice. We abandoned them. We let them suffer. Now they hold the power. And I, for one, think we deserve whatever terms they demand. Zethus looked at Chen with a mixture of anger and respect. You planned this from the beginning. The humble captain act. Sharing your combat logs. All of it was manipulation. I prefer to call it negotiation, Chen replied. And yes, I learned politics along with warfare. Humanity grew up fast. Admiral Kernek studied the Krill fleet projection thoughtfully. Tell me honestly, Captain, can humanity stop this fleet? Chen considered the question carefully. Alone? No. This fleet is bigger than anything we have faced, but together? The Council has numbers and resources. Humanity has experience and weapons technology. Combined, we might have a chance. Might? War is never certain, Admiral. But I know this. If we fight together, we have hope. If we fight separately, we all die. The chamber fell silent again. Chen could see the calculations happening behind every representative's eyes. Pride versus survival. Independence versus extinction. The vote will be held in 3 days. Zethus announced. We will decide whether to formally invite humanity to join a military alliance against the Krill. Until then, Captain Chen, you and your engineer will be our guests. And please, stop hacking our systems. No promises, Webb said with a grin. As they left the chamber, Chen felt Webb lean close. Odin finished the scan. You are not going to believe what he found. What? The Council has been monitoring human space for the last century. Every colony, every shipyard, every military installation. They have detailed records of everything. I know. We saw some of that. No, you do not understand. They were not just watching. They were preparing. The Council military has been developing weapons specifically designed to fight humans, just in case. Chen stopped walking. They were planning to attack us? Not attack. Contain. They were scared of what humanity was becoming. They wanted to be ready in case we became a threat. Chen looked back at the Council chamber. Behind those walls sat representatives from 100 species, all claiming to value peace and cooperation, but they had been ready to destroy humanity if necessary. They fear us, she said quietly. They should, Webb replied. We survived what killed billions. We turned ourselves into weapons, and now they need those weapons to survive. Chen thought about Earth, thriving in the darkness. She thought about the 32 human colonies spreading through space. She thought about the UNSC fleet that would arrive in 1 week, carrying admirals and politicians who would decide humanity's future. The galaxy is about to change, she said. The old rules do not apply anymore. Good, Webb said. I never liked those rules anyway. 3 sectors away, the Krill fleet continued its approach. They did not know about humanity. They did not know about the Long War or the species that had been forged in fire. They were about to learn, and the lesson would be written in blood and steel across the stars. The Krill fleet arrived 3 days early. Captain Chen was in the medical bay of the Retribution, supervising the awakening of her crew. When the alarm sounded, she ran to the bridge, her boots echoing through corridors that were finally coming alive again. Behind her, hundreds of crew members were emerging from cryosleep, groggy but ready. Commander Zethus was already on the communication channel when she arrived. His voice carried a tremor she had never heard before. Captain Chen, they are here. The Krill. They jumped into council space ahead of schedule. They are heading for Valora's homeworld. 2 billion citizens. We need to evacuate. There is no time for evacuation, Chen interrupted. How long until they reach the planet? 6 hours. Maybe less. What is the council's defensive position? A pause. We have 43 ships in the system. Admiral Kernek is in command. He says they will hold as long as possible to buy time for evacuation ships. Chen pulled up the tactical display. 43 council ships against a Krill vanguard fleet. She counted the enemy vessels. Over 5,000 bioships and more jumping in every minute. It was a massacre waiting to happen. Zethus, I need you to authorize the Retribution's repair. Full access to your station's resources. And I need it now. Captain, the council has not voted yet. We have no alliance. I cannot authorize. Those are 2 billion lives, Commander. Valora's people. Your friend's people. Are you going to let them die because of politics? Another pause, longer this time. Then Zethus spoke, his voice firm. Authorization granted. What do you need? Everything. 2 hours later, the Retribution was alive in a way she had not been in decades. The council station's repair drones swarmed over her hull, patching holes, replacing damaged armor plates, welding structural supports. Power cores were restarted. Weapon systems came online one by one. It was not enough time for a full repair, but it would have to do. In the crew quarters, 842 humans were suiting up for war. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking weapons, securing armor, running through pre-battle rituals they had performed countless times before. These were veterans of the Long War, soldiers who had fought in the darkest days of humanity's survival. They had been asleep for 40 years, but their training was eternal. Lieutenant Webb stood in the engine room, coaxing life back into systems that should have been dead. Come on, beautiful, he muttered to the main reactor. One more fight. That is all I am asking. The reactor hummed, flickered, then roared to full power. Webb grinned. That is my girl. On the bridge, Chen watched her crew take their positions. Her tactical officer, her weapons officer, her helm. Every station filled by someone she trusted with her life. Someone she had fought beside through hell. Status report, she ordered. Main weapons at 60% capacity, called out Weapons Officer Park. MAC guns are online. Nuclear torpedo bays are loaded. Point defense grid is functional. Engines at 75%, Webb reported from engineering. FTL is still damaged. We can do sublight only, but we can move. Communications with the Council fleet established, said Communications Officer Torres. Admiral Kernek is requesting our intentions. Chen opened the channel. Admiral, this is Captain Chen. The Retribution is combat ready. We are coming to assist. The Admiral's reptilian face appeared on screen. His expression was unreadable. Captain, you have 43 crew members awake and a damaged ship. We appreciate the gesture, but you cannot help us. You should evacuate while you can. With respect, Admiral, that is not happening. My crew and I did not survive the Long War just to run from a fight. This is not your fight. The Council has no alliance with humanity. You have no obligation. The krill are everyone's fight, Chen interrupted. We learned that 200 years ago. Today you learn it too. She cut the channel and looked at her crew. They stared back at her with fierce loyalty. These people had followed her into the heart of a krill hive fleet once before. They would do it again. Helm, plot a course to Valora's homeworld. Maximum speed, aye, Captain. Course plotted. Weapons, I want everything ready. Nuclear torpedoes armed. Mac guns charged. If it can shoot, I want it ready to shoot. Already done, ma'am? Chen sat in her command chair and felt the familiar weight settle on her shoulders. Command. Responsibility. The knowledge that her decisions would determine who lived and who died. All hands. This is the captain, she said over the ship-wide channel. I will not lie to you. We are heading into a fight we might not survive. The krill have numbers. They have surprise, but we have something they do not have. We have experience. We have training. We have the will to survive that has been carved into us by 200 years of war. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Council abandoned humanity once. They let us fight alone. Today we show them what that created. We show them what humanity became in the darkness. Today we show the galaxy that humans do not run. We do not hide, we fight. And we win. The crew cheered. It was a sound Chen had not heard in 40 years, but it sent fire through her veins. Helm, engage engines. Take us to war. The Retribution launched from the Council station, her engines burning bright against the stars. Behind her, the station's occupants watched in awe and terror as the massive warship accelerated toward the coming battle. 4 hours later, the Retribution entered the Valora system. The scene was chaos. Council ships fought desperately against the krill swarm, but they were losing. Bioships tore through elegant Council vessels, ripping them apart with organic weapons that ate through shields and armor. Explosions dotted the darkness. Escape pods drifted through debris fields. Tactical assessment, Chen ordered. Council fleet is down to 28 ships, reported the tactical officer. Krill forces number approximately 4,800. They are in attack formation Alpha 7, standard swarm pattern. They are pushing toward the planet. Show me Admiral Kernek's flagship. The display highlighted a Council dreadnought at the center of the defensive formation. It was taking heavy fire, its shields flickering. Open channel to all ships, Council and krill frequencies. Channel open, ma'am. Chen stood. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UNSC Retribution. Krill forces, you have entered protected space. You have 10 seconds to withdraw or be destroyed. This is your only warning, silence. Then a horrible screeching sound came through the krill frequency. It was laughter. So be it, Chen said. All weapons fire at will. Show them what humans learned in the dark. The Retribution opened fire and the galaxy saw human warfare for the first time. The Mac guns fired first. Magnetic accelerator cannons launching slugs of depleted uranium at a fraction of light speed. The rounds punched through 3 krill bioships, then 4 more behind them. Each shot was a lance of destruction that left nothing but debris in its wake. Nuclear torpedoes followed. Dozens of them, arcing toward the thickest concentrations of krill ships. They detonated in sequence, each explosion a miniature sun that vaporized everything within a kilometer. The point defense grid activated. Thousands of small railguns that created a wall of metal around the Retribution. Krill fighter organisms that tried to close were shredded before they could reach the hull. Targets eliminated. 247, reported Weapons Officer Park. Acquiring new targets. Keep firing. Do not stop until they are all dead, or we are out of ammunition. The Council fleet watched in stunned silence as the single human ship carved through the krill swarm. Admiral Kernek's voice came through the comm, filled with disbelief. What? What are you? We are what you made us, Chen replied. We are survivors. The battle raged for 3 hours. The Retribution took damage, terrible damage. Krill bioweapons scored her hull. Organic missiles struck her sides. 2 of her Mac guns were destroyed. Fire broke out in 3 sections. 17 crew members died when a krill ramming organism breached the lower decks. But the Retribution did not stop. She could not stop. That was not what humans did. Chen made a decision. Helm, plot ramming course to the krill command ship. Ma'am? The helmsman sounded shocked. You heard me. We are going to ram them. Weapons, arm all remaining nuclear warheads. Overload the antimatter containment. On my mark, we detonate everything. Captain? Webb's voice came from engineering. If we do that, the explosion will destroy us too. I know. All hands abandon ship. Get to the escape pods. Move. We are not leaving you. Someone shouted, "That is an order!" Chen roared, "Get off the ship!" The crew hesitated, but discipline won. They had been trained to follow orders, even ones they hated. They moved toward the escape pod, some crying, some praying, all terrified. Sithis' voice came through the comm. "Captain Chen, what are you doing?" "What humans do best," she replied. "Winning." The Retribution accelerated toward the massive Krill command ship at the center of their fleet. Smaller bioships tried to intercept, but the point defense grid cut them down. The command ship grew larger in the viewport, a grotesque thing of chitin and metal. "Weapons armed," Park reported. He had refused to leave the bridge. So had Torres and the helmsman. They would die with their captain. It has... Captain Sarah Chen woke up in a medical bay that was not her own. The walls were too white, too clean. The equipment around her was alien technology, humming with sounds she did not recognize. For a moment, panic gripped her. Then memory returned. The battle. The sacrifice. The explosion. She was alive. "Welcome back, Captain." Chen turned her head, wincing at the pain. Commander Zethis stood beside her bed, his compound eyes reflecting a dozen different versions of her battered face. "How long?" she asked, her voice rough. 3 days. "Your injuries were severe. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, concussion. You are lucky to be alive. My crew, 791 survivors from the Retribution. 17 dead in the battle. 34 still in critical condition. The rest are recovering." Chen closed her eye, relief washing over her. "Most of them made it. Not all, but most. The battle? We won. Your sacrifice broke the Krill Vanguard fleet. They retreated. Valora's homeworld was saved. 2 billion citizens owe you their lives. And the main Krill fleet," Zethis' mandibles clicked nervously, "still coming. The Vanguard was only a scouting force. The main armada is 3 weeks away." Chen tried to sit up, but pain lanced through her body. She fell back, gasping. "You need to rest," Zethis said. "I need to get up." You need to rest," a new voice said. Chen turned to see a human man standing in the doorway. He wore a crisp UNSC admiral's uniform, his face weathered but strong. Behind him stood a dozen more humans, all military. "Admiral Kenji Nakamura," the man said, stepping forward. "Commander of the UNSC Third Fleet. It is an honor to meet you, Captain Chen. Your name is legendary in human space." Chen stared at him. "Legendary?" "The mission to destroy the Krill Queen. The sacrifice of the Retribution. It ended the long war. Children learn about you in school. There are monuments built in your name." Nakamura smiled. "Waking up to find you are a hero is probably disorienting." "I was just doing my job. That is what all the best heroes say." Nakamura pulled up a chair and sat. "I am here to negotiate with the Galactic Council. But first I need to understand the situation. Tell me everything." "For the next hour," Chen explained. "The Council's abandonment of humanity. The quarantine. The discovery. The battle." She told him about the Council's fear, their political divisions, their weakness. And she told him about the Krill Armada coming to destroy everything. Nakamura listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "So they left us to die," he said finally, "and now they want our help to save them." "Yes. What do you think we should do, Captain?" Chen met his eyes. "I think we should help them. Not because they deserve it, but because if we do not, billions will die. And because we are better than they are," Nakamura smiled. "I was hoping you would say that. The UNSC High Command agrees. We will help the Council. But on our terms. What terms?" "You will see. Right now you need to rest. The negotiations start tomorrow. And I want you there if you are strong enough. I will be there." The next day, Chen limped into the Galactic Council chamber on crutches. Her body protested every movement, but she would not miss this. The chamber was packed. Every council representative was present. And filling one entire section were humans, hundreds of them. Diplomats, military officers, scientists, advisors. A delegation that announced humanity's arrival on the galactic stage with undeniable force. Admiral Nakamura stood at the central podium. Beside him was the human ambassador, Dr. Elizabeth Torres, a woman with sharp eyes and sharper political instincts. "Members of the Galactic Council," Nakamura began, his voice echoing through the chamber. 200 years ago you discovered humanity. You observed us. You judged us. And you decided we were too violent, too dangerous, too primitive to join your civilized society." The chamber was silent. Then the Krill came, You knew they were coming. You could have warned us. You could have helped us. Instead, you quarantined us and left us to die. 3 billion humans died in the first year of the war. Billions more died over the next 2 centuries. We fought alone in the darkness while you watched. Nakamura's voice grew harder, but we survived. We adapted. We evolved. We became what we needed to be to win. And now the Krill are coming for you. Now you need us. The question is, why should we help you? Valora stood, her feathers ruffled with emotion. Because it is the right thing to do. Because billions of innocent lives hang in the balance. Because despite our mistakes, we can be better together. Can we? Nakamura asked. Can the Council truly accept humanity as equals? Not as primitives to be managed, not as weapons to be aimed, but as equals. Zethus stepped forward. I cannot speak for the entire Council, but I can speak for myself. What happened to humanity was wrong. The quarantine was wrong. Abandoning you was wrong, and I am sorry. He paused. If humanity will help us survive this threat, I will dedicate my life to ensuring the Council never makes such a mistake again. Other representatives began to stand. One by one, they echoed Zethus's apology. Not all of them. Some remained seated, their expressions hostile, but enough stood that the message was clear. Change was coming. Ambassador Torres stepped forward. The United Nations Space Command has authorized me to propose an alliance. Humanity will join the fight against the Krill. We will share our military technology, our tactical knowledge, our forces. In exchange, we require the following. A holographic list appeared above the podium. 1. Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council with equal voting rights. 2. All quarantine restrictions on human space are permanently lifted. 3. The Council will provide full technological exchange including FTL technology, medical advancements, and scientific knowledge. 4. Joint command structure for all military operations with human officers integrated at all levels. 5. Formal reparations for the abandonment of humanity during the Long War. The chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives called the terms reasonable. Others called them extortion. These demands are outrageous, shouted the Grelin representative. You would use our desperation against us. Yes, Nakamura said simply. We learned negotiation from you. You left us to die when it benefited you. Now we set terms that benefit us. Welcome to human diplomacy. Admiral Kernek stood. I support these terms. I have seen what human forces can do. If they fight beside us, we have a chance. Without them, we die. The choice is simple. The vote was called. It took 3 hours of debate, political maneuvering, and threats. But in the end, the measure passed. 873 votes in favor, 412 against, 89 abstentions. Humanity was formally invited to join the Galactic Council. Ambassador Torres shook hands with Zethus, sealing the agreement. We are allies now. Let us hope we can trust each other. Trust is earned, Zethus replied. Let us earn it together. 6 months later, the combined fleet assembled in neutral space. Captain Sarah Chen, now promoted to Admiral Sarah Chen, stood on the bridge of the UNSC Defiance, humanity's newest and most powerful dreadnought. It was twice the size of the Retribution, carrying weapons that made her old ship look like a toy. Around the Defiance, 200 human warships hung in formation. Dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, cruisers, the entire Third Fleet ready for war, and integrated among them were 500 council vessels. Different designs, different species, but united under one banner. Commander Zethus stood beside Chen as her liaison officer. It was a strange partnership, but it worked. He understood council politics. She understood war. Together they made an effective command team. Long-range sensors have detected the Krill Armada, reported the tactical officer. They are 2 hours out. Fleet composition: 3 million bioships, 50 hive carriers, 1 Empress-class command vessel. Chen studied the tactical display. It was the largest enemy force she had ever seen. Larger than anything in human history. Larger than the fleet that had invaded Earth. This was the Krill's full military might gathered to crush the Council once and for all. All ships, battle stations, she ordered. Execute formation Delta 7. Human ships form the spearhead. Council forces provide fire support and screening. 700 warships moved into position with practiced precision. Months of training, of learning to work together, paid off now. The fleet moved as one organism, Human aggression balanced by council strategy. Admiral, Zethus said quietly, what are our chances? Chen thought about the long war, about Earth burning, about friends who had died, about humanity forged in fire. We are alive, she said. That means we still have a chance. And sometimes, a chance is all you need. The Krill Armada emerged from hyperspace like a plague. They filled the view screen, a seething mass of organic ships and hatred. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had destroyed countless civilizations. They were the terror of the galaxy. They did not know humanity. Admiral Chen opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. I know many of you are afraid. You should be. We are outnumbered. We are facing an enemy that has never been defeated. But I want you to remember something. The Council was afraid of humanity once. They feared what we would become. Today we show them they were right to be afraid. Today we show the Krill why humans do not lose. She paused, letting her words sink in. For 200 years humanity stood alone against the darkness. We bled, we suffered, we died, but we never broke. Today we do not stand alone. Today we stand with the Council. With the Klarn, the Valoran, the Grell, and Alti.